on, guys? It's KW here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. What a wild day it was yesterday. I actually put out an emergency video discussing our good old buddy, Bart Simpson. That's right, he showed back up again. We were joking about this happening. It actually did happen. So if you missed that emergency update video, it did come out a lot later. Make sure that you turn on the bell notifications so that you get these updates. Sometimes I do have those extra videos that I put out, right? But let's talk about what's going on right now. So essentially, yes, we did have this move. Now we need to talk about whether or not this has totally disrupted the pattern, right? You can see right here, if we have a look at the futures, we actually don't have a gap. It was anticipating that Bitcoin was going to come back up into the $30,000 level, and it did. It actually went to $30,200. So that already happened. We can brush that aside. We are going to look, though, however, at what this means for the structure of Bitcoin and what we can expect now that we had this crazy fake out type of a move, right? Also want to talk about one thing about, macro talking. The bottom is the bottom in, was 25K the bottom. Regardless of whether or not that was the exact bottom, I am going to show you multiple reasons, multiple charts why right now is one of the greatest times to actually be accumulating Bitcoin historically. And actually, we have more proof that the whales have been buying. So there are people buying. So for everyone out there that's panic selling, who are you selling to? Well, we're going to find out in a few minutes. Also want to talk about a group of computer scientists that are actually urging officials in Washington essentially to crack down on cryptocurrencies. They're kind of lumping them all into one category, Bitcoin and altcoins and everything. I don't know how I feel about that. However, there is going to be legislation coming out from the Biden administration regarding Bitcoin proof of work, proof of work mining, and that's going to be coming out as soon as August. So we could have kind of a rough patch, in the next few months, just as far as the uncertainty of that legislation. We'll talk about that in just a bit, guys. But first and foremost, obviously, we need to get into the charts. So if you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, hit the like. You know what to do, guys. So let's dive in and let's have a look at what Bitcoin is doing. So essentially what we did, and this is why I said we had to wait for that confirmation, which we really didn't get it up here, right? We were above this resistance. But actually, I guess if you sort of come over here and you take this level right here where Bitcoin was sort of consolidating, I guess you could say that that kind of was resistance. It was a very, very weak resistance, if you ask me, in my opinion. It was just this level right here, carry it over. So I suppose maybe that's why we got rejected, because we were holding above the major support for a little bit. But now you can see that we did, in fact, get that test right here off of this downward sloping trend, right? We got that bounce. We are being held on support. And if I actually zoom in, you can see that we've started another uptrend right here, and we do have more than 3 points of contact, which does make it an official trend, right? We have this wick here, we have this touch here, and look at this. We actually have 2 touches almost exactly to the line. So we are starting this new uptrend. So I am hoping that Bitcoin can stay above these levels, and start to move back to the upside. I still do have that target at around $33,000, which we did not touch yet. So I still do anticipate that before we have any major crazy more, downside type moves, 33 should be the level to keep your eyes on. And, having a look right here, look at what the S&P did. The S&P did the same exact thing, came up, came back down, and now potentially we are having that consolidation. And actually, if I go back to Bitcoin, really, if you just want to point it out, we're honestly just trading again inside this giant blue zone, which is why I had this mapped out for us. So ultimately, we're really just in the same area that we've been. And if you take this fake out to the upside, you take this fake out to the downside, what are we doing? We're just consolidating right here inside this channel, right? Hopefully, though, we do start to put in that uptrend, which I actually think we will start to do that. And in yesterday's emergency video, I did point out we just don't want to lose this right here, right? We don't want to lose this $28,600 level, because if we do, then, well, we know the next level is coming back down here, possibly putting in a double bottom at around that $25,000 area. But essentially, that is what we are looking for. Now, the one thing that could be a little bit bearish that I did talk about in yesterday's video as well is this fractal. So if we are doing something similar to this sort of Wyckoff, accumulation pattern that we did over here, which is exactly where this fractal's from, right? If you just literally just take this and you just move it over here, that's how I got that. But what we ended up doing was, even though we did touch this area, we kept hitting the resistance, we actually ended up having, a few final touches to the downside, actually putting in a kind of triple bottom right here, right? Which then, if that was the case, that would actually be almost like a giant triple bottom, right? If you took all three of these together as moves. But as the fractal did point out yesterday, if I do overlap this, and of course it's not going to be exact, it's a fractal, it's not an exact price movement, but you could see we came down, we had that capitulation wick, came back up, everybody got optimistic, popped back up here, fake out, which is exactly what happened yesterday, and then we did in fact continue to the downside, sideways, and then down again, right? So you did have that sort of triple bottom. So I don't know if that's what's going to happen again, but what I do know is that we did end up, ultimately bouncing off the lows and then, putting in this type of pattern right here. So it's something that I just wanted to mention, guys. We spoke about the M-shaped pattern overall. You can also see these fractals in smaller charts as well. You see them all over the place, right? Because fear, greed, traders, they do the same tricks. We have the same emotions, right? So that is a possibility, extending this out, that would say that, we wouldn't be seeing a $40,000 Bitcoin until August. I did actually have a closer target than that. Personally, I think we could be back by 40,000 by the end of this year. But, like Velvet was pointing out, they were asking him, did he capitulate? Are you scared? And essentially, he just points out the similarities between these moves, right? And even though, yes, technically, at this point in the bear, you do end up breaking the long-term support, right? This support right here gets broken. We do have that capitulation. And then essentially, all we do is just go sideways for a few months, 6 to 8 months, and then we continue the uptrend. The same thing happened over here, right? We lost it. We went sideways for a few months right here, and then we started the trend. Same thing could be happening right here, right? We lost it, and we go sideways for a few months, and then we continue the trend, right? Bitcoin has moved in these cycles. Now we have spoke about lengthening cycles and things of that nature, which I guess hindsight will be 2020 once we see exactly how this cycle plays out. There's only really been a few of them, right? We don't have a very large sample size to really go by. But like Checkmate points out, ultimately, if you look at the 730 DMA, which is an interesting DMA to use, by the way, I've never really seen this, but nevertheless, we do have the data on the chart. And you can see that anytime it gets below that, it does provide a essentially generational opportunity for buying, and vice versa. When it gets above the 5x 730, it's also potentially a good time to sell. Good to know now, right? Although you can see right here, we never actually got above it, which is interesting, which is why a lot of people thought maybe that wasn't the top, right? But you can see right here, anytime we dip below this level, excellent opportunity for accumulation. And here we are just starting to dip below it again today. But ultimately, guys, the one that I've been using, the one that we are going to continue to use on this channel, because this is the one that I'm most familiar with, is the 200 weekly and the 600 daily. And anytime that you are below this line right here and above this line right here, this is amazing opportunity for accumulation. Anything in this level. And actually, let me just point out, right now we're about the halfway zone. We're literally, if you can see, we're literally about halfway between these two moving averages, right? So if we sort of look at what that's meant in the past, just kind of eyeball it. So halfway right here, Bitcoin was trading at around $4,900. If you waited for the absolute bottom, you were essentially, from that point, able to buy Bitcoin for a 33% discount, which isn't bad. Although if you look at it price, you only went from 4,800 essentially down to 3,300. So, it was a big percentage move, but it really wasn't a big move, dollar move, right? It was only $1,000. If we actually look at this for right here, essentially, in the middle, Bitcoin was sitting at around 6,200. You did get another drawdown. Well, you actually got a crazy drawdown if you got below the wick, but ultimately down to the bottom of that level, you're going from 6,300 to basically 5,500. I mean, was it really worth the wait? You could try to time the bottom. I'm sure there may be another opportunity to get Bitcoin cheap in the future, but how much are you really looking to try to get it? Same thing here. If we come down to this level, that's about a 25% drop. So Bitcoin could fall another 25%, right? But really, you're only talking the difference between buying Bitcoin at 29,000 or buying Bitcoin at 22,000. So yes, there is a difference. It is a good opportunity. You can get more Bitcoin, but ultimately, historically, buying anywhere within these bands essentially is a good opportunity. And also keep in mind that if we don't go down to this right away, what's going to end up happening, because this is a long-term moving average, it is going to continue moving to the upside, right? So, by the time we end up, if we come up here, test this, get rejected, and come back down, maybe you're getting a bottom at 26,000, which is only $3,000 cheaper than today. So if you take anything away from this video, is now the time to be dollar cost averaging, not financial advice, in my opinion. Absolutely. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm dollar cost averaging every week. I've been doing this for 6 years. I mean, I've been dollar cost averaging this whole thing, but I'm going a little extra hard right now because, Bitcoin essentially from top to bottom is at almost a 57% discount. So we do know that Bitcoin can go, we've seen it fall 80 to 85%. Could that happen? Well, that would put us somewhere, between $10,000 and $13,000. Is it going to happen? Not sure, guys, but historically speaking, this is an excellent opportunity to buy. Now, if you don't think people are buying Bitcoin right now and you think everyone's gone away and they just packed up their bags and left, well, that is true for a lot of the retail. However, the whales have been accumulating. The number of addresses holding at least one Bitcoin has reached a new all-time high. And if you want more data, you can actually see right here, according to Glassnode's latest on-chain report, a metric known as the accumulation trend score has been sitting at around 0.9 or higher for nearly 2 weeks. So this metric reflects the aggregate accumulating or distribution trend seen by Bitcoin investors on chain while filtering out miners and cryptocurrency trading platforms. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. They're not focusing on trading platforms and they're not focusing on miners, right? So when the accumulation trend is closer to zero, it reflects that investors are distributing their holdings the same way that we saw ultimately during, the distribution phase, or simply they've stopped accumulating, right? When it rises to almost 1 or it is 1, it shows they've been strongly accumulating. So 0, they haven't. 1, they have, and we're sitting at 0.9. It says Glassnode's report details the metric currently indicating that existing entities on the network are adding significantly to their holdings, right? So, and just to kind of put it super simple here, let's just get rid of all the lines, all the moving averages, and just look at this one simple trend. Now, obviously, this is curved in order to fit the bottom. So yes, I did move this so that it touched all the bottoms, but essentially what I'm trying to, point out here is if we look at it, look at all these touches right here, all these touches right here, all this time that we trend on it right there. And look at this, guys. One of the very few times, if not the only time we ever fell below this trend was essentially during this COVID Black Swan event, which we know was a Black Swan event. What we are witnessing right now today is not a Black Swan event, okay? Maybe the war with Russia and Ukraine was, that could be a possibility, but we know the Fed is going to raise rates. We know that inflation's out of control. These are all things that we're expecting, right? So getting back to this, guys, here we go. Look at all these touches with the exception of COVID right here, okay? And look at where Bitcoin is sitting right now. Not to mention that we had a perfect touch right there. So, historically speaking, this is the time to be buying. And, if you're really just trying to wait for this little bit extra right here, I don't really know how that's going to play out. Could we ultimately end up breaking this long-term sort of trend? Possibly. There's a first time for everything. We technically broke it right here, but look what we did. March fell, April, back above it, right? So even when we do break it historically, we don't stay below it for very long, right? So this is why trying to time the bottom, you can give it a shot, but let's be real here. Dollar cost averaging, right, guys? So here's the situation with these computer scientists. So according to a report from the Financial Times, 26 leading computer scientists and academics have signed and delivered a letter to U.S. officials in the Capitol criticizing cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. The claims that the blockchain advocates make are not true. It's not secure. It's not decentralized. This is what they're saying. Any system where you forget your password and you lose your life savings is not a safe system. Okay, I get where they're coming from, but it is decentralized. That's the point. So they go on and say, we urge you to resist pressure from digital asset industry financiers, lobbyists, and boosters to create a regulatory safe haven for these risky, flawed, and unproven digital financial instruments. Crypto assets have been the vehicle for unsound and highly volatile speculative investment schemes that are being actively promoted to retail investors who may be unable to understand their nature and risks. Well, cryptocurrency is inherently quite risky. Look what happened with Terra Luna. Okay, that was a top 10 crypto, so I can see where they're coming from, maybe from there. The computer power behind blockchain is the equivalent of what one could do in a centralized way with $100 computer, but that would be centralized. We're essentially wasting millions of dollars worth of equipment because we've decided that we don't trust the banking system. Okay, yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't know if we're wasting millions of dollars worth of equipment, but yeah, we don't trust the traditional banking system. And yeah, this is part of Bitcoin. And this is actually going to lead into the whole proof of work situation, which they are looking to have some legislation come out in August. But, you know, according to Skybridge Capital CEO Anthony Scaramucci, he predicts that lobbying groups would force the next two presidential candidates of 2024 to be pro-crypto. He says, let me just say this to you. Follow the money. Because there is a waterfall of money entering Washington from different associations and lobbying groups. I'll make a prediction that the 2024 final two presidential candidates will be pro-crypto, pro-blockchain. Follow the money. So, having a look at what they're, potentially looking to do with what Biden and, his administration is going to do as far as policies. So I read this article on Finbold right here, which I'm going to share with you. And I was kind of surprised at the overall sentiment of this. And before we get to it, it kind of gives me the vibes that they are going to regulate, but they are going to do it in a positive way for Bitcoin. They don't want to ban Bitcoin. They want to get involved in Bitcoin. In fact, knowing the United States, if these other guys start adopting Bitcoin and Bitcoin starts, being used as legal tender all around the world, I'm not saying the US is going to do it, but they are not going to want to fall behind on the race. And if they know that all these different countries are starting to mine Bitcoin, they are going to want to be at the forefront. So let's get to the article and listen to this quote when I get to it. So the United States government plans to unveil the first ever policy targeting Bitcoin mining to address factors like the sector's energy regulation and climate impact. The policy proposal is expected to be out by August, right? So here we go. White House Office of Science and Technology Policy Principal Assistant Costa Samaras says it's essential, if this is going to be part of our financial system in any meaningful way, that it's developed responsibly and minimizes total emissions. When we think about digital assets, it has to be climate and energy conservation. We need to think about what it would be the appropriate policy responses under a world that shifted to proof of stake, or a world that has some continuous mix of proof of work and proof of stake. Now listen to this. Proof of work is energy intensive. Excuse me, guys. Losing my voice here. Proof of work is energy intensive by design, but is also increased security. So they admit that proof of work is energy intensive, but it is actually a more secure network, right? Bitcoin is the most secure network on planet Earth. There's absolutely nothing more secure than the Bitcoin network. If you can think of something, I'll wait. Go ahead, drop a comment below. Tell me one network on planet Earth that's more secure than the Bitcoin network. It's definitely not the internet, nothing centralized. Websites go down, servers go down all the time, right? The banking system, the ACH system, come on, that's an archaic system, right? They also added that policymakers intend to look at mining farms offering grid operators flexibility by shutting down servers during peak demands. The proposal has attracted attention in states like Texas, which is actually where Consensus is, is anyone going to Austin, Texas for Consensus, by the way? I'm still on the fence. I have a lot of people that want me to go. Are you going to be in the area? Is anyone going? Should I go? If you guys go, maybe I'll go. I don't want to speak or anything like that. Honestly, I don't like doing stuff like that. I just prefer hanging out with you guys. It's a lot more fun. I talk every day on this channel. I don't need to talk on a stage. But yeah, so, it doesn't look that bad. It kind of looks pretty cool. It looks like they're understanding that, yeah, proof of work is necessary for security. We just need to figure out a way to make it a little bit greener, which it already is going green, right? It's estimated that half to 60% of the network is actually already using renewable resources anyway. So we are on the right path. And you can actually see right here, former U.S. Secretary Rosie Rios says that cryptocurrency is one of the greatest wealth disruptors. And literally her signature is on the back of $100 bills. So I'm sure she has some kind of important say as to what's going on. And she seems to be pretty for it. So we'll just point out that. Now, one thing I did want to talk about super quick, altcoin news today. According to data, the Solana Beach block, basically long story short, Solana was shut down. It was down for a few hours. causing a total shutdown of all the applications. To mitigate the solution, the Solana team has asked validators to restart the network. It has released instructions to the validators. So, I mean, this is a centralized system. I mean, they say it's decentralized, but I mean, you know, Bitcoin doesn't have this problem. Bitcoin's been running 99.9% of the time. Actually, you can Google it. There's a clock. I don't even know the website. It's like Bitcoin runtime or something. Bitcoin's been running like 99.98% of the time. It's literally only been down for 6 hours or 4 to 6 hours ever. And it was in the very beginning, you know, and it was for like functional reasons. They were doing something. So other than that, yeah, Bitcoin has basically never, ever run down and shut down. And just to end on some good news today, Chipotle will now accept cryptocurrencies through Flexa, a digital payments platform, and Flexa supports 98 currencies, including Bitcoin and Ethereum. Customers can use the app and pay for food in any of the nearly 3,000 Chipotle restaurants in the United States. And on that note, my friends, I think that's where we're going to leave it. Ultimately, right here, what we're trying to do is essentially we are back in the blue zone. I just want to see us maintain this upward support. I really don't want to lose this and then touch this again, because if we keep touching this previous resistance at support and hammering down, we are going to fall back down to 26.25. So what I would like to see is us build support. I want to break through this $30,000 area again, maybe hit this as resistance, test it, excellent opportunity for a long, and then we should come up to that $33,000 level. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. My name's K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. If you enjoyed this content, let me know, drop a like, and make sure if you are looking to trade, take advantage of the bonuses. There's actually a big bonus going on specifically with Femex right now. They're doing an extra $4,500 on top of the $4,100, and you can only get that by using the link below in the description. So make sure you guys check that out, check the pinned comment, and also make sure that you watch these videos popping up right here, right now. Until next time, stay crypto, and of course, peace out.